thumbs up to Operation Sindoor. Desi ammo beats Pakistan's ploy. Atmanirbhar arsenal blasts terror nests. India debunks Pakistan propaganda. Pakistan chose to back terrorists. Nuke rumors laid to rest. Locked and loaded. India always ready.
Each detail, every key takeaway. What exactly happened in Operation Sindoor? Good evening and welcome to 5 Live. I'm Pooja Shali. Let's begin. But the big news coming in right now. Prime Minister Narendra Modi set to address the nation at 8 p.m. Stay tuned. That's going to be our big story. This is going to be the first message, remember. The first address by Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Operation Sindoor. Till now, Prime Minister, of course, was consistently in key huddles and meetings, constantly was tracking operation details. But after chairing the key meeting a few hours ago at his residence 7 LKM, the first message, the first address to the nation from Prime Minister Modi at 8 p.m. Now, who was in that high-level meeting? Images on your screen. NSA, CDS, Tri-Services Chief attended the meeting. Raksha Mantri, External Affairs Minister also were part of that meeting. Remember, the briefings have been made consistently, daily, over the next few hours. Also likely that will continue. But because in the past few days, especially since the day one of the strike, at the terror targets, then the military targets, what will be a part of Prime Minister Modi's address to the nation? So that's the big news coming in right now. We are being joined by our managing editor Gaurav Sawant, reporters on the ground, Shreya Chatterjee, Piyush Mishra as well. First to you, Gaurav, as you join me, the first address to the nation coming in from Prime Minister Modi at 10 p.m. What is, according to your understanding, that will be a part of this address?
The Prime Minister perhaps will address the nation about why Operation Sindoor was required and the fact that India, being a peaceful nation, had to target terror at source because despite our repeated requests to Pakistan, despite India handing over multiple dossiers to Pakistan, unfortunately, governments in Pakistan did not take any action against terror. Prime Minister Narendra Modi in 2014, when he was sworn in as Prime Minister for the first time, he had invited all the SAARC heads of states and government to his swearing in because the aim was to build and take this region forward together. And then Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif had also come to India. There'd just been an attack on an Indian consulate in Afghanistan in 2014. And despite that, India's effort was, let's move forward together. Let's take this region together, benefit from India. And every action taken by Prime Minister Narendra Modi was for the benefit of the region, whether it was a satellite that would benefit the region, whether it was connectivity, energy, oil, water. Entire focus was we will take this region together. It was only held back by Pakistan state-sponsored radical Islamist terror. We've bled considerably. You'd recall 2016 when the Pathankot airbase was attacked. The Prime Minister also let Pakistan's ISI come to India and carry out an investigation. They registered a case in a Gujranwala police station in Pakistan, and yet investigations did not happen. Therefore, after Uri, India hit back with a surgical strike. After Pulwama hit back with an airstrike at Balakot, and yet when Pakistan continued to target India through terror, not in the rest of the country, but even in J&K, Pahalgam was the last straw that broke the camel's back, so to say. And especially when those terrorists, unfortunately, when that widow, after her husband was killed, when she said, "Mujhe bhi maar do," he said, "Nahi, jaake Modi ko bolo." So what was the Prime Minister's response and the Government of India's response or the Armed Forces' response? Why that action against terror followed? Perhaps we will hear India's explanation on being a peaceful country, and yet the philosophy of our nation, Shakti se Shanti, Air Marshal Bharti, DG Air spoke of Ramcharit Manas, Bhai Bin Hoj Na Preet. It's also what Rashtrakavi Ramdhari Singh Dinkar said. शर में ही बसती है दीप्ति विनय की. You know, strength comes when you are strong. The weak can never either forgive or be friends. When you're strong, people will want to be friends with you.
Poetry in our scriptures as message clearly, even, remember, centuries later, is being quoted for a reason. Gaurav, please stay on with me. Shreya Chatterjee, Piyush Mishra also joins us. Piyush, you've been literally posted right outside 7LKM for days, tracking all these huddles and meetings. You've been tracking the high-level meetings that have taken place, the briefings that have been on. Tell me, at about 8 p.m., what are we expecting as Prime Minister Modi's address?
Well, Pooja, it's going to be a very big briefing by Prime Minister. He's going to address the nation, and this is the first big address coming in from Prime Minister after the successful Operation Sindoor. Remember that Prime Minister in the past more than 2 weeks has held multiple meetings. According to official data available with us, more than 25 top-level meetings have been chaired by PM Narendra Modi. And today in the morning itself, he was there with a meeting in which Tri-Services Chief were present. Rajnath Singh was there, S. Shankar, NSA Ajit Doval, and other officials were also present. And remember that after that high-level meeting, he also chaired a meeting with NSA Ajit Doval and with Indian Air Force Chief Air Marshal AP Singh. So multiple meetings Prime Minister has chaired, and he himself has been personally monitoring each and every development. And when operations were being carried out, at that time also Prime Minister, looked into the operations throughout the night. He was being continuously briefed by NSA Ajit Doval. So after this successful Operation Sindoor, and also after giving a befitting reply to Pakistan, where we have not only hit the terror targets in Pakistan, but also the military installations, air bases have been hit and damaged. After the kind of strong actions which we have taken against Pakistan, Prime Minister is going to address the nation. Certainly, it is going to focus most likely on the India's achievements. Remember that there are multiple points on which we have achieved, because this time we'll not only have achieved this, but we also rule the skies. We know how to defend ourselves. We know each and everything, and Pakistan also knows our capability. So after that big operation, now Prime Minister is going to address the nation and tell the nation about India's capability.
All right, Piyush, stay on with me. Shreya also continues to be with us. Also, Sandeep Unithan joins me. Sandeep, of course, there will be a lot of people curious to see what does Prime Minister Modi finally say. What is that message addressed to the nation? Do you think the focus will be on the achievements of Operation Sindoor, and in many ways to allay any concerns that people of India had, that should we have gone ahead? Do you think that could be a message that could come in from Prime Minister Modi?
Absolutely. I feel that yesterday you got the tactical messages from the military, DGMOs, Air Force, Navy and Army. And today you're likely to get the strategic message from Prime Minister Modi. And today is Budh Purnima. I must tell you this, that Budh Purnima is very important when it comes to India's strategic history. In the past, you had 11th of May 1998, when Prime Minister Vajpayee tested nuclear weapons. He ordered the nuclear weapon test. That was a very, very big step. And today is Budh Purnima again. You're going to hear from Prime Minister Modi talking about how India was not deterred by Pakistan's nuclear weapons-enabled terrorism. Something that India has had to reckon with for 27 years after Pakistan nuclearized itself, used terrorism as an instrument of state policy and protected that terrorism with nuclear weapons. So I think we are going to see the big message here, the big picture painted by Prime Minister Modi, talking not only about Pakistan and terrorism, but a message beyond that, that India's battle essentially is not with the people of Pakistan, it is with terrorism. And look at the way we've targeted terrorism in Pakistan. We've hit only the terrorist infrastructure.
Absolutely.
The military was called in to strike at the Pakistan Air Force only after the Pakistan Air Force struck back at us in several waves. And it is only then that the Indian military targeted the Pakistan military, the Army and the Air Force in 2 waves. And the most unprecedented airstrikes ordered against Pakistan, possibly in India's history, post-1947. And there's a small little anecdote that I picked up on why 11 air bases were selected, why 11 targets. And I went back to the 1971 preemptive strikes ordered by the Pakistan Air Force against Indian targets. On the 3rd of December 1971, Pakistan attacked 11 Indian air bases from Jammu and Kashmir right down to Bhuj in Gujarat. That number 11 was significant. That operation was called Operation Changes Khan. And today, I think the Indian Air Force has given a response to that Operation Changes Khan 54 years later. These are the largest operations launched by the Indian Air Force in a single day across 3,000 kilometers. The Indian Air Force has come of age, but of course, you will hear more about India's role in the world today. India, the land of not only Gautam Buddha, but also Shivaji and Maharana Pratap. You're going to hear some of that from Prime Minister Modi today.
And Bhagwan Ram from the anecdotes and the poetry that was quoted by the military as well.
The land of warriors, the land of sages, and the land of warrior sages.
And who've always wanted peace, but they have also responded in self-defense as and when required. Sandeep, you made a very interesting point about Buddha Purnima. Is it just a coincidence that Prime Minister Modi is set to address the nation tonight on that day? But we'll of course know from what the speech says. Stay on with me because I want to bring in Shreya as well. Shreya, at a moment like this, the last time that we heard Prime Minister Modi was in the aftermath of the Pahalgam massacre, constantly reassuring the people because there was this patience running out amid public. And he, with Home Minister Amit Shah, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, kept assuring, be rest assured, we will go after the planners and backers of terror and, of course, with regard to military targets as well. Now we'll hear Prime Minister Modi on one, why Operation Sindoor, how was it organized and the achievements that Indians must be proud of from it.
There's no denial that the messaging will be around that, but be rest assured that this message is not just for the nation, but the global community. And that's exactly why I agree with what Sandeep just suggested. I'm outside 7 LKM right now, and when we actually got the news, a lot of us also aligned it with the fact that it is not a mere coincidence that he chose to speak on a day when it is Buddha Purnima, and also because the DGMO level talks are over. The reason being so that the message to the global community is likely to be clear that India does not mean war. This is something that has been forced upon us. So that is probably going to be the line of message to the global community, to the nation. It will be on the lines that be rest assured, we will continue to deal Pakistan with iron hands because we have now also changed our doctrine so far as dealing with how we see a war. From now on, any act of terrorism will be seen as an act of war. So double messaging, one to the nation and the other to the global community.
Just stay on with me. Sandeep, I have one more question here. The question is that also we must have noticed how Prime Minister Modi let the military speak first. He is, after all, leader of the country. He could have made the first address. He let the operational details, the victory aspect of it, the ammunition aspect of it come through the military. Because he had also said, I give complete operational freedom for timing, mode, target to the armed forces. And we've seen that performance come in. And now he's deciding to come forth and make that address.
He's doing what every great leader does. He empowers his subordinates, and in this case, it is the Defense Ministry, it's Defense Minister Rajnath Singh, it is the service chiefs, because the military option was exercised by the military. These are matters best handled by the military. The Prime Minister gave them, full freedom to prosecute the military operations as they thought fit, and the Armed Forces have done a fantastic job. And if you see the briefing, it's one of the best briefings, I would think, in recent years, where they're very clinically, directly analyzed all of this. But, Pooja, the biggest risk taker here in this whole game was the Prime Minister. He's taken one of the biggest risks in his political career. And I'll tell you why. Because attacking another nuclear-armed state, even one that encourages terrorism the way Pakistan has, doing it all by yourself, no other country has done this in the past. Pakistan is the only country to have enabled nuclear weapons, enabled terrorism, and of course, bled India with 1,000 cuts. But Prime Minister Modi has taken that risk. He's empowered the Air Force to strike at all of these targets. And, I'll give you a small example of how difficult it was, Pooja. The fact is that, the NSG, the National Security Guard, have something called a Rubaya target. Their commandos are among the best sharpshooters in the country. They're trained on something called the Rubaya target, which is basically a terrorist holding a hostage. The commandos are asked to shoot only the terrorists, of course. And this is what they do very well. I would think that this Operation Sindoor, was something like that Rubaya target shooting, where you had to strike only at the terrorists, not allowing for any civilian collateral. That's exactly how complicated this operation was, which is what they did
and
on the
it speaks
first day.
highly of India. The
Absolutely.
distress, the anger that we had after Pahalgam massacre,
Yes.
in fact, after any terror attack on our civilians, and yet for a professional army and a democracy to decide that we will teach a lesson to Pakistan, but only with their terror targets,
Yes.
if required, like we saw this time in response to the military targets, but to avoid people as much, even though they were still targeting our civilians along the line of control.
Absolutely, Pooja. You know, that is what we are. This is what we do. We do not, our enmity is not with the people of Pakistan.
Yes.
It is with the terrorists and it is with their state sponsors, in this case, the Pakistan military. If you look at it, the Pakistan Air Force briefing, that was on attacking the Indian Air Force, which was taking out terror targets inside Pakistan. What are they going to go and tell their children?
True.
That we were shooting at an Air Force that was striking at terrorist
Shooting at
targets?
civilians.
Shooting at civilians? I mean, this is the kind of, war that the Pakistan military has always fought since 1947 in Jammu and Kashmir. The atrocities that have been unleashed in 47, in 1965, 71 in East Pakistan, later Bangladesh. This is the Pakistan military's way of war.
And no humility. I noticed this desperation to claim victory that is coming in, when in fact it is India and Indian military that have managed to hit where it hurts. Sandeep, and to all our colleagues, Piyush and Shreya, please stay on with me. The last time we heard Prime Minister Modi, remember, was right 2 days after the Pahalgam massacre and the distress that all Indians were facing when 26 innocent men, 25 Indian citizens, 1 Nepalese citizen was shot at point-blank range. We'll never forget it. Here's what Prime Minister Modi had said at that time to the public, vowing to punish the terror groups.
मैं बहुत स्पष्ट शब्दों में कहना चाहता हूं, जिन्होंने ये हमला किया है, उन आतंकियों को और इस हमले की साजिश रचने वालों को उनकी कल्पना से भी बड़ी सजा मिलेगी। सजा मिलकर के रहेगी। Today, from the soil of Bihar, I say to the whole world, India will identify, track and punish every terrorist and their backers. We will pursue them to the ends of the earth. India's spirit will never be broken by terrorism. Terrorism will not go unpunished. Every effort will be made to ensure that justice is done. The entire nation is firm in this resolve. Everyone who believes in humanity is with us.
Remember this, that as the Indian military decided to strike the terror targets deep inside Pakistan territory, and then also another response to the military targets, Pakistan called up on an emergency hotline to Indian military, appealing, begging for a ceasefire agreement and an understanding, at least to begin with. Now, likely ahead of the talks that we're expecting again between the DGMOs, it was scheduled earlier this afternoon, but we hear that it's been delayed for now. But a key meeting was held at Prime Minister Modi's residence. CDS, Tri-Services Chiefs, Defence Minister NSA Ajit Doval were present in that meeting at 7 LKM. Now, the DGMO talks likely to be held over a hotline in the next few hours. The focus will be, remember, according to our sources, 1, Pakistan to ask for the Indus water to continue to be released, to not be stopped. India, remember, made it very clear during the DGMO military talks earlier as well, Indus water treaty will not be discussed. Sources have told India today, India will not share any hydrological information with Pakistan. India will continue to build our infra projects on 3 northern rivers because we don't owe anything to Pakistan on this. Prime Minister Modi also told the forces, if Pakistan this time again takes to bullets, especially against our civilians or military, India will hit them back with missiles. Sources also added, Prime Minister Modi spoke to US Vice President J.D. Vance, making it very clear, if Pakistan attempts any misadventure hereon, it would get a stronger and a more devastating response. Any future act of terror will be seen as an act of war by India. The Indian Armed Forces, meanwhile, remember, reiterating again 2 days in a row that only terrorists and terror infrastructure were the big target for India. We avoided especially hitting the civilians. That's the kind of restraint and professionalism Indian military has shown. However, the Pakistan military, even though the military was not the target initially, remember, but Pakistan military decided to intervene and supported the terrorists instead. Thereby, India decided to give a befitting response. Air Marshal A.K. Bharti confirming Indian military bases remain intact. All our bases are fully operational. Do not fall for Pakistan propaganda. And that Indian side has, if at all, incurred only a minor loss. The Indian Armed Forces also stating that Pakistan drone and rocket attacks failed to even penetrate into India's multi-layered air defense system. And during Operation Sindoor, remember the Chinese PL-15 missile? Turkish drones effectively destroyed. And these are not just claims. This is all from evidence, pictures, images, videos from on the ground. The forces categorically denying, though, because there was a lot of speculation over it, about any reports that Indian Air Force may have struck the Kirana Hills in Pakistan's Punjab, an area speculated to be for long housing the elements of Islamabad's nuclear arsenal. Here's what the senior officers from the Indian military had to say.
I would like to highlight again that in every single domain that Operation Sindoor has been prosecuted, there has been absolute synergy between the three services. Not only have we, in this endeavor, been fully supported by our government, departments, and agencies, I cannot here not mention our 140 crore countrymen that have stood behind us with their prayers and goodwill, urging and inspiring us to achieve our mission and objectives. For that, we salute you. You are indeed the best. Jai Hind. कि जब जब पाकिस्तान एयरफोर्स ने हमारे एयरफील्ड्स और लॉजिस्टिक इंस्टॉलेशंस में 9 और 10 मई की रात को लगातार हमले किए, वो इस मजबूत एयर डिफेंस ग्रिड के सामने विफल हो गए। आपके सामने इस ग्रिड को एक तरीके से दर्शाया गया है। आप देख रहे हैं कि इंटरनेशनल बाउंड्री से कितनी लेयर्स, रडार्स, काउंटर, अनमैन्ड एरियल सिस्टम्स, उसके पीछे शोल्डर फायर्ड वेपन्स, हमारे विंटेज एयर डिफेंस वेपन्स जो कि काफ़ी सालों से हमारी सेना में हैं। एयर मार्शल भारती ने भी उसके बारे में बात करी। और लास्ट में हमारे मॉडर्न एयर डिफेंस वेपन सिस्टम्स। तो कोई मौका नहीं था कि पाकिस्तान एयरफोर्स ये मल्टी टियर डिफेंस को पार करके पीछे हमारी एयरफील्ड्स या लॉजिस्टिक इंस्टॉलेशंस को टारगेट कर पाए।
They are doing what they are doing. Not information is not forthcoming from there. Obviously, that is expected, and they would do whatever it takes to assuage their people and minimize whatever information about the damage comes out. Here, I would like to clarify, as I said yesterday, our fight is with the terrorists. Our fight is not with the Pakistan military or Pakistan civilians. So that is very clear, and we are very clear in our targeting. The other side is trying to make out a story. Well, it is for them to answer, and it really is not a military question for us to answer here. We've done our job. We have done what we are expected to do, and that is it.
Shown on the screen is a probable enemy PL-15 missile, which is of Chinese origin. This missile has missed its target, and you can see the pieces now which are available with us. Another weapon system or weapon which was found was the long-range rocket, the pieces of which you can now see on the screen. We have talked about the loiter munitions and the unmanned aerial systems, and here are some of the glimpses of those systems which we have brought down. To your right, with the right undercarriage or the wheel you can see is the Yeha system, which is of Chinese origin with Pakistan. You can see some quadcopters and you can see one odd Sonka drone hanging by the wire. All these have been brought down by our trained crew and air defense systems.
The Yeha drones are of Turkish origin.
Social media, the Twitter is abuzz with the fact that we hit a site called Kirana Hills, which is supposed to be the nuclear storage facility. And there is a lot of rumors about Sargodha. There are foreign analysts who've mentioned that the Sargodha attack led to certain leaks. Is there a confirmation that we actually hit Kirana Hills, or we were careful of not to do any such thing? Thank you.
Thank you for telling us that Kirana Hill houses some nuclear installation. We did not know about it. Okay. And we've not hit Kirana Hills, whatever is there. Okay. I did not brief in my briefing yesterday. Thank you.
In the current standoff, the presence of our aircraft carrier with large number of MiG-29K fighters and airborne early warning helicopters prevented any suspicious or hostile aircraft to close the carrier battle group within several hundred kilometers. The fleet operates as a composite force, maintaining a surveillance bubble at extended ranges using advanced radars. Any aerial target that attempts to penetrate this bubble is detected and identified using various techniques and technologies, affording quick and clear distinction between commercial, neutral, and hostile aircraft or flying objects at ranges in excess of the anticipated attack range. The carrier battle group, with its integral air wing, provides the first layer of this layered mechanism. Adequately equipped and trained to high degree of proficiency, our pilots are able to operate both by day and night.
Viewer, always remember, India had the coordinates for these terror targets, but this time to hit where it hurts, Bahawalpur, Muridke, other terror camps as well. How did India achieve? And talking about it, revealing it with evidence before and after. Joining me, Gaurav Sawant, specifically about these terror camps that were hit and how. Gaurav, take us through the details.
India's aim was to punish terror, and India targeted initially the 9 terror camps in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir and in Pakistan's Punjab province. By and large, the impression was that India would never target terror at its roots in Pakistan's Punjab province, whether it is in Lahore. Lahore, of course, also has a radar site, but these are some of the terror targets and military installations that India was forced to target. So initially, in white are those terror camps that India had targeted on day 1. So Markaz-e-Taiba in Muridke. Then Sarjal is of Jaish-e-Mohammad. This is a camp which is in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Maimuna Joya, Sialkot. Markaz Hadid in Barnala. Bimbar is Lashkar-e-Taiba. Now these are in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. The one in green is proper Pakistan, as they say, in Pakistan's Punjab province. So now let me talk about the military targets that were targeted, and take a look at this. Day 1, India said we are only targeting terror. If Pakistan does not escalate, India does not want to escalate. That was the point that India made after hitting terror at source in Bahawalpur and in Muridke and in Sialkot and POJK. But when Pakistan army came to the defense of Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammad and Hizbul Mujahideen, and in India, whether it was in Jammu and Kashmir or in Punjab or in Rajasthan or even here in Gujarat, targeted military installations and put lives of Indian civilians at peril, India chose to hit, and that too was a graded response. India targeted 11 military installations in Pakistan plus 2 radar sites. Each time it was a graded response. Initially, a couple of runways. So, and let me take you through that. Noor Khan, This is right at Islamabad, the heart of Pakistan's Punjab, Rawalpindi. It was in Rawalpindi that India hit the command and control structure. Murid is where UAVs were being sent to target India. It's a very important airbase, again, in proper Punjab or proper Pakistan, as they put it. Sargodha, this is what everyone is talking about. Sargodha is not just one of the most important air bases and largest air bases, one of the largest in Pakistan. It has a tiered air defense system all aimed at India. So it has 4 layers of security, man pads or the surface to air, man launchable systems, surface to air missile systems. Then they have tier 2, then short range surface to air missiles, and then long range surface to air missiles. They have everything for the protection of Sargodha, Gujranwala and Rafiki in close contact, because this is where Pakistan's so-called nuclear assets, the Kirana Hills that everyone's talking about, this is where India targeted not just the runway, which is a signal, but also certain hangars, the F-16 facilities and certain other locations. Gujranwala was a radar site, and this is what makes Pakistan blind, because the moment you target a radar site of a country, including in Lahore, the Lahore radar station was taken out. The Chunia radar station was taken out. The moment you target somebody's radars, the missiles don't know where to aim. The missiles cannot track. That is where India first blinded Pakistan's air defense, or a section of it here, then launched these missile strikes at multiple locations across Pakistan's Punjab province, but also did not leave Bolari. This is in Sindh. This is a very important hangar site. It's the latest airbase in Pakistan. And also the Maler Can, Karachi, it's an air defense site. So from every side, the moment you target this, if India wanted to strike from sea, India could have struck from sea. This is a signal that's going out to Pakistan. Jacobabad, very important. F-16 air defense attack, all of that comes out of Jacobabad. Sakar, UAV and radar hangar targeted. Rafiki, very important airbase of Pakistan Air Force, where they have their fighter jets and their main UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles and unmanned combat aerial vehicles launch site. A lot of their aircraft or UAVs were destroyed in the hangar, including some that had just come in from a country that pretends to be India's friend but was arming Pakistan. So in all of this, when you see all across Pakistan's border that faces India, Skardu is in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, Bolari is in Sindh and proper Punjab. Pakistan has been hit all over, and this was demonstrative. Some damage to their air traffic controller, some damage to their hangars, some damage to their aircraft, some damage to their air defense, some damage to their personnel. In war, there would be 5 waves all across. Nothing can stop the BrahMos supersonic cruise missile, the air-launched BrahMos supersonic cruise missile, the Rafale-launched meteors, or the scalps, the hammers, and when the assault happens from sea. So nowhere in Pakistan is safe for terror. That's the message that India gave out to Pakistan. And in a way, this is retribution from the Parliament attack to IC-814 hijack to 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks to Pahalgam. Terror of decades has been avenged in these strikes.
Gaurav, thank you very much for this elaborate perspective. Remember, for the first time, the way you're looking at this map is very clear, to detail, to help you understand what does it mean. When we look at these statistics, it's not just about hitting terror targets, then military targets, but look at the precise strikes that happen. And we'll put that map out for you just again. Take a look at that. Look at the number of targets that India has hit in the past 2 to 3 days. Sandeep, I take this question to you. Such precise strikes, important locations, ensuring civilians are not hit. But first, let's begin with the terror targets. To have chosen areas, whether in POJK or of course Bahawalpur and Muridke, was to establish we're not going to go after simply planners or backers of terror, but those who organize these terrors, the operational hubs of Jaish-e-Mohammad, Lashkar-e-Taiba, Hizbul Mujahideen.
Absolutely, Pooja. You know, and I'd like to break the targets basically into
Go ahead,
two.
yes.
The first would be the terror targets, the infrastructure of terrorism, the Jaish headquarters in Bahawalpur, the LET headquarters in Muridke, all of the other launch pads and such like. The second set of targets are the military targets. Now, it's it calls for enormous risk-taking ability. It calls for a lot of political sagacity to order these strikes, as the Prime Minister has done, the Defense Minister has done, and of course the service chiefs have implemented these orders. Now the thing is that with terror targets, it's very difficult to strike because you don't know where the terrorists are. You have to have precise ground intel. You need to know where the civilians are, where the terrorists are. So this kind of an attack would have been very, very difficult. You need to have a lot of ground intel. You need to have the targets to be laced, as in illuminated by laser beams, so that the glide bombs can come and precisely hit it. So the first strikes, the first wave of strikes of Operation Sindoor were very, very complicated because you had to ensure you were hitting only the terrorist training infrastructure without causing any civilian collateral. Now, the second set of targets are the military targets. Now, this is something that the Indian Air Force is very well versed with. It has a lot of this targeting information, and they've been building it up for decades. They know exactly what is to be hit, when they have to hit it, what message needs to be sent, whether they need to hit 11, 15, 20, 25. There is nothing in Pakistan today, Pooja, that the Indian Air Force does not see. They look at it through the day, through the night, in all weather conditions. So hitting the military targets was not such a big deal. But hitting the terror targets, I would say, is far more complicated because you want to avoid collateral. You need to hit precisely where all of those 100 terrorists that the government of India said were killed in those attacks. You need to know precisely that they were there in the camps when they were struck. And remember, in 2019, you did the same in Balakot. Now, 2025 is Balakot into 9. You had to repeat that 9 times over. Yes. You had to strike not only at Pakistan-occupied Kashmir camps over there, but also these 4 camps in Pakistan's Punjab province. Punjab province has never been attacked since the 1971 war. And this is something that I think the Pakistan military hadn't gained either. Who would have thought that the IAF would launch these strikes at Muridke and Bahawalpur, bang in the middle of all these populated centers? And that is why you have these surgical strikes that were carried out with such precision, such elan.
And bases so close to Islamabad.
So close to Islamabad, the kind of messaging that has been put out there. So it is really, air operations of a very high order, Pooja. And I would argue that the Indian Air Force's golden age has begun. And very quickly, the Narendra Modi government is one that has never shied from using air power. In the past, you can argue in 1962, there was an option to use air power, but the government of the day did not exercise air power. Our troops on the ground were mauled by the Chinese. We still had a far more capable air force than the Chinese. We could have saved the day if we had used air power in 62. We did not. In Kargil again, in 1999, air power entered only after the army had made contact with the Pakistan military. Whereas here, the Narendra Modi government started with the Air Force. This is a very, very big messaging. You know, in 2019, the airstrikes, nobody would have thought. In mainland Pakistan, in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, and now in Pakistan's Punjab province on the 6th of May. A big line has been crossed with Operation Sindoor, and possibly Operation Sindoor could be the template for further such airstrikes, surgical airstrikes against terrorist infrastructure, Pooja.
Incredible offensive power of the Indian Air Force that was put to use, and how it was for all to see, with evidence now, especially with before and after images. But Sandeep, stay on with me. Now, remember one, India decided to hit back, especially with our military power, and it failed to be intercepted in Pakistan because of all the Chinese, so to say, ammunition, defense systems sold at such a high price to Pakistan, but it did not really work. But remember, Pakistan was sending missiles and drone attacks our way in our civilian population. How did India keep Pakistan missiles and drones at bay? That is also important to understand how we were protecting our people and our military strategic targets. I want to take you through one by one. It's a matter of pride. Akash Tir is being called as India's Iron Dome, comparing it to Israel. What does that mean? This is an indigenous command and control air defense system developed by Bharat Electronics Limited and enables the forces to intercept and neutralize Pakistan projectiles. It also simultaneously generates a real-time data for us to understand what exactly is happening with regard to these interceptions, to precisely track aerial threats, collecting inputs from multiple radar systems and sensors like the AWAC, you must have heard of it in the past few days, acting as a digital nerve center of the air defense network. This was one of the big mentions. Of course, you must have heard of S-400, but Akash, Sandeep, I think it is a matter of pride because we have collaborations, whether it's with Russia, Israel and more, but we also all these years were building our Akash Tir system. Tell me more about that, because it was not something that was widely discussed, but has literally saved us, protected our lives.
Absolutely, Pooja. Credit must be given to the indigenous systems that we've put on display there, with the IACCS, the Indian Air Force's Integrated Air Command and Control System, which marries various missiles with various capabilities in multi-layered air defense. The Akash is one very important, a leg of that air defense system. It covers a series of targets. It covers targets across India. It starts with a 20-kilometer range. It goes up. You have advanced models of the Akash missile system. And the Akash system is part of the IGMDP project, which began in 1983. And one of the project directors who actually helped put it together, Dr. Prahlad, he must be a delighted man today to see the way the Akash is now come of age. It's an entirely indigenous defense system. In fact, everything about the Akash, from its missile, the rocket boosters, the components, the seekers, the target acquisition radar, it is entirely indigenous. It's one of the very few missile systems, one of the few defense systems that we can export to any country we wish, because we don't need to take permission from any other country. It is completely indigenous. It's a leap of faith that we took many years back. We persisted with it. The Air Force and the Army have backed it with orders, and today it's come of age. And hopefully there will be very different variants of the Akash, going up to make that Iron Dome that you mentioned over there.
Stay on with me. One is the Iron Dome, which is to defend yourself. Another is the Akash missile system. What is that about? It's a mid-range surface-to-air missile system. And again, like the Akash Tir, developed domestically by the DRDO. This has a range of about 45 to 70 kilometers, and that's where it comes to assistance in the border areas. Can engage multiple threats and simultaneously. This is also equipped with a 60-kilogram high-explosive warhead and boasts of advanced guidance systems. Now, all of this, Sandeep, was in the backdrop of a certain vision that our defense scientists had, a political will as well, and that in many ways is bearing a fruition round, because many civilians across the country may not have realized all this work that was being done. Unlike Pakistan, that was getting ammunition on an emergency basis, whether it was from Turkey, China or more.
Absolutely, Pooja. There can be no replacement for indigenous missile systems, indigenous weaponry. And this, what you just outlined, the fact is that, if you depend on foreign countries for your weapon systems and your ammunition, then what is going to happen is that you will very quickly run out of supplies, and then you will have to beg them to send shipments, aerial shipments of these deliveries to keep fighting the war. And the prognosis is very clear. If you want to fight your own wars, you have to be self-sufficient in all of your defense equipment. And this is something that the Modi government has pushed very, very successfully over the last 5 years. They've launched the Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative to create an indigenous defense industrial base, marrying together all of our scientific prowess, our DRDO's designs, the production facilities that exist in the public sector and the private sector, to create an indigenous defense industrial complex that can completely equip our armed forces with indigenous solutions. Because if you're going to fight long wars, as the Russia-Ukraine war has taught you, you have to be self-sufficient, because countries might impose sanctions on you, they might deny you components, they might deny you parts, as we've seen in the past with India as well, when you take a very critical step of either going to war or testing nuclear weapons, then these countries will impose sanctions on you because they want to try and manipulate your behavior. So if you want to fight the wars that you believe are in your national interest, you must be completely self-sufficient, create your own defense industrial base, and not only create your defense industrial base, but also export weapon systems to build bridges with other countries, like-minded friends, allies, to cultivate your circle of friends. Because, the final thing that I have to say, Pooja, is that, if you want a seat at the UN Security Council, you cannot be importing security, which is what comes with imported weapons. When you're importing weapons, you are actually a net importer of security. And I think the government of India has realized that with this huge push for indigenous weapon systems, these positive indigenization lists, which is where they've brought out literally thousands of parts and weapons which they will not acquire from foreign sources. All of it will be built in India by Indian industry.
Also, Sandeep, remember at a time like this, a lot of countries, like we have seen, will give out all sorts of statements. You don't know when that can change. And for example, we were the first to help Turkey during earthquake, only to have Turkey appear to be helping Pakistan instead. So these are reminders that we would rather be self-sufficient. Now let me come to you with the biggest name you must have heard, the BrahMos missile that was used in targeting whether the terror outfits or the military target. A cruise missile, ramjet engine, operational range of about 290 kilometers with an export version. The flight ceiling is at about 15 kilometers. The altitude with regard to this missile flight is about sea skimming, as low as 5 to 10 meters if required. The guidance system is active radar homing, and the launch platform can be a warship, submarine, land, fighter aircraft. This, Sandeep, I think is very crucial before we go across to others as well. But importantly, BrahMos, I think, is crucial because I think Jaish-e-Mohammad terror outfit was targeted in Bahawalpur, among other targets, was with regard to BrahMos.
Absolutely, Pooja. You know, the BrahMos is a missile who I cannot emphasize the importance of. It is a missile that flies at 3 times the speed of sound. It is virtually impossible to intercept that missile. Once it is fired, the BrahMos will go through the target like a hot knife through butter. Even if the warhead doesn't explode, it will destroy the target with a sheer kinetic energy. Imagine a missile hurtling at the speed of 3 times the speed of sound. And I believe, looking at the bomb damage assessment, I believe that the missile that hit the Jaish headquarters in Bahawalpur had done what is called a steep dive maneuver, where the missile directly drops onto the target vertically, it goes through and explodes. Now the BrahMos is in, we have 3 variants of the BrahMos missile, as you mentioned. We have a surface-launched version, we have an air-launched version which is carried by the Su-30s, and you have a sea-launched version which is carried by warships. There is a 4th version as well, which is a submarine-launched version which has been tested, but yet to find the platform. I'm sure the Indian Navy is working on getting a platform for the BrahMos submarine-launched version very soon. But you know, the importance of this missile is that we are one of the very few countries in the world, Pooja, that has what is called a universal supersonic cruise missile. Now, a universal missile is something that can be fired from a variety of launch platforms, whether from the air, from the surface, under the sea, all of those. So we have that missile in 4 variants, and it is a missile that actually, it originated in the Cold War. It was designed by the Soviet Union from a series of missiles that were designed to sink US aircraft carriers by sheer kinetic energy. So this is a smaller version of that. We've been
And Sandeep, amid all of this, when we are discussing these missiles, I can't help but not mention in these explanations the S-400. It's become a part of our arsenal dictionary as well in the past few days. India's Sudarshan Chakra. An advanced and potent air defense system. In many ways, the drone attacks coming our way, the missiles coming our way, the capability to protect against all sorts of aerial attacks was achieved by S-400. It can thwart drones, missiles, rockets, even fighter jets. It basically acts as a shield over a particular area, a long-range surface-to-air missile system. It's also named SA-21 Growler by NATO. Developed by Russia's Alumas Central Design Bureau, S-400 can engage intruding aircrafts, can engage unmanned aerial vehicles, engage cruise missiles, ballistic missiles. Russia has been developing the S-400 since 1993. India procured it in 2018. It's coming to our assistance, and how in 2025. Had it not been for S-400, perhaps we could have sadly had casualties of a civilian population at a massive level in our cities and border areas too. On that note, I'll wrap up this bulletin. Thank you to Sandeep Unathan and all our colleagues on the ground as well. But stay tuned. 8 p.m. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will make his first address to the nation. While Operation Sindoor is still ongoing in many ways, but what will the PM say about the achievements, the reason, and possibly why we have decided for now to indulge in a ceasefire? Thank you for watching 5 Live.